Welcome, everybody. We are here today with Jen Devillier, who will be speaking to us about the dreaded Ouija board. So many of us have had experiences with Ouija boards, and so many of us have been told not to mess with these things for various reasons. And there's a lot of misconception about the Ouija board, which we're going to get into today and speak to you about. So many times the Ouija board has been blamed for certain things. People feel that the Ouija board is evil. Some people feel that the Ouija board is good. Some people feel that what comes through can't be controlled. Some people feel that whatever comes through on the Ouija board is nothing but bad, or you can't tell what it is, good, bad, or otherwise, correct?
Correct.
And what we're going to do today is speak with an expert on this subject matter, which is Jen here, who is a psychic medium, and also the expert on the Ouija board, which you make these also, I understand.
I do.
So first of all, let's get in to talking about what the Ouija board actually is and its history.
Okay, well, the brief history on that would be, ever since the 1800s, people have been trying to reach out to the other side, talk to the dead, talk to loved ones, whoever wants to come through. In the 1800s, they came out with the original board or system, and we're talking about putting letters down using a glass, that sort of thing, and then came out with an actual board in the late 1800s. So people have been doing this for a long time, and it's really kind of funny because the stigma of the evil and, don't use it, it's bad for you, that's actually more in the recent years. You see them in the movies, super scary, it opens a portal and all hell breaks loose, and that's actually not as common as one would think.
I actually saw a show where they were speaking about the Ouija board and the fact that this evil entity came through, and it was basically a possession that was taking place with this family of a young girl who was playing with the Ouija board, who considered the Ouija board her friend. Now, does this kind of thing actually take place and happen?
Well, I can't say that it doesn't, but what I can say is that it's not very common. What people seem to forget is that when you're using it, there is a sort of intention that goes behind it. It depends on who you're using it with. Are you using it alone? Are you using it with someone? Do you know what their intention may be? Are you absolutely certain? And my biggest thing is protection. A lot of people just pick them up and just start using them. A lot of people drinking, children, and they're not really being careful. But the main thing to remember about these is they're just another divinatory tool. And actually, if you're going to go out and say like paranormal investigation, you always want to be careful, do some kind of practice before and after that's going to protect you while you're doing this so that nothing attaches and goes home. But this is no different than using recorders, EMF meters, ghost box.
So basically,
anything you're going to use.
Yeah, so basically we're doing the same thing when we're out trying to communicate or contact the dead. It's just we're going about it different ways.
Right.
And for whatever reason, the Ouija board kind of has a stigma that's attached to it.
Yes.
Now, I will tell you that I had an incident occur a long time ago when I was probably, I want to say maybe 16 years old. Okay, I think I was around 16, maybe 17. And a friend of mine had a Ouija board. And what we did, we started playing with this Ouija board. And of course, you kind of start thinking, somebody's moving the planchette, and it's like, well, you're actually moving it across with your own fingers. And so we really didn't think too much about it. Anyway, I had taken this Ouija board home and I slid it under my bed, and I hadn't messed with it for quite some time. And then one night I started hearing this tapping noise, and I couldn't figure out where this tapping noise was coming from. Well, I thought it was maybe, critter got up in the attic, or, you know, it could be anything. I didn't really think about the Ouija board at the time, but one night I started hearing it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to find out what that thing is, and I'm going to get rid of it, because it was happening really late at night, and it was keeping me up. So I started trying to follow the noise around, and it was kind of echoing throughout the whole room. But when I started pinpointing it, I started looking up under my bed, and I could literally see the box kind of shaking a little bit every time I heard that tapping noise. So it freaked me out. I didn't even open the box. I just got up, grabbed the box, ran straight over to my buddy's house, and, you know, we didn't know what to do with it. So for lack of a better term, we burned it, you know, and because we figured that was the only way to get rid of it. You know, at the time I didn't realize that whatever was there when we burned it, we were probably just releasing. I don't know if that was the case or not, but it stopped after that. But I know that these type of events happen because it happened to me. And so I know that this little deal right here can and will move on its own on a Ouija board. Now, I don't know if this was something that was just trying to contact me, if it was friendly, or if it was something evil, but it did occur. Okay? I mean, have you heard or had experiences or heard of anybody having experiences with something like that?
I personally have not really had any scary experiences with Ouija, and I've been using it since, you know, I was 8 or 9 years old. I started making them with manila folders and pieces of paper, anything I could find. I became obsessed with them, and I really am not even sure to this day where my obsession came from. It just sort of happened. But I have heard stories of people having some really scary experiences in their homes after having used them. I guess I'm not surprised. Again, it's a tool, and it can be dangerous just like anything else. But if people keep in mind that it is a tool, such as, you know, like I said again, the digital recorder, you know, a pendulum, tarot cards even, anything that you're using to contact the other side, even yourself, you have to take caution.
Now, the way you explain it as far as being a tool, this is something that, when you say that, I associate with a tool such as a pistol or a rifle or a shotgun. It's a tool. It's not, this isn't actually dangerous. A gun isn't actually dangerous. It's the person wielding it that can be dangerous. It's the intent behind the use of that equipment, the intent behind the use of a handgun or a shotgun or a rifle, the intent behind the use of a Ouija board. That's kind of what I'm getting. Is that basically the way you're describing this?
That's exactly, yes. It's exactly the same. The board itself, you know, it's printed. It's most of the time cardboard, unless they're the kind that I make, which is with wood. They're completely benign when you get them. There's no, you know, there's no shaman or priest or anything that's like, you know, sitting there putting voodoo on each and every single printed board. That's just ridiculous. And I mean, I have heard rumors that Parker Brothers, you know, curses each board and things. I've heard all kinds of ridiculous things, but
you would have to have kind of a mass blessing in a huge warehouse, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you would really have to go all out, have a voodoo person. I don't even know what they would use, but either way, it's totally, completely benign. It's what you put into it. I personally do not use it for ghost communication unless I'm taking it on site, because oftentimes I have people invite me as a guest psychic, and they request me to bring one.
So what do you use it for?
I use it to talk to my spirit guide.
Okay, so you have a personal guide that you use that contacts you through the use of the Ouija board.
Right.
Okay.
He's my guide that I've had my entire life, and that was pretty much our agreement, was that that would be the easiest way for him to talk to me. And I do always get the question, how do you know it's him and not
that was my next question.
A ghost, right?
That was my next question.
Because I'm psychic.
See, she knew what I was going to ask, and that's why she started answering that.
It's very simple. If you and I were to talk every single day for a week, we pretty much know how each other communicates. We know what words we might use frequently and how we talk to each other, right?
Right.
It's the same with them. My spirit guide has a certain way of talking to me, and no one else talks that way. So if someone else starts coming through and giving me different words and verbiage that he doesn't use, then I know it's not him, and I say, okay, game over. Whoever you are, out. And for me personally, anyway, I always use Archangel Michael as my protector before I start a session and when I close one out, because people often don't close them out.
Right, which leaves the door
Which
open.
leaves the door open.
Which
and
could lead
things
to
can
the
come through.
flashette banging on the edge of the box.
Yep.
And me hearing it and freaking out. So, yeah, so I mean, that kind of stuff happens.
Yep.
So, we're talking about some of the bad. What's the good that comes out of a Ouija board? What was your best experience with it and why?
My best experiences have been actually my guides when they come through have warned me about possible car accidents and things like that. Actually, and my guides facepalm a lot because I am still, even though I'm a psychic, I'm still skeptical. And they tell me things and I'm, like, I don't know what you're talking about, whatever. And then later on I come back to them and go, you were right, And I imagine them going, oh, yeah.
Have you ever had something happen as far as them warning you about something bad going to happen and you don't listen and then you did it anyway?
Yes, that's where I was going with that.
See, she's psychic. She knew I was going to ask that too.
I got into a car accident once, and it was funny because I did ask my guide that morning, is there anything I need to know about before I go to work? And he did warn me that there was going to be an accident. He wasn't specific about it being car or anything like that. And he mentioned there would be yelling and pain. And I was like, I don't even know what any of that means, and I don't have time. I have to go to work. Well, that afternoon I got in a car accident. And I jumped out of my car because it was a very stupid car accident. It was the other guy's fault, and I was angry because I was driving a Camaro, and I loved my Camaro. Yeah. And I got out, and I was yelling at him, and the pain, yes. I ended up having to go to the doctor, had whiplash, and all that good stuff. So he did try to pre-warn me, and I didn't listen. So, I mean, the good things that can come through are when they try and give you heads up.
Now, did he mention anything to you when after the car accident or kind of scold you or anything like that?
No, as much as I like to envision him face palming all the time, he actually never says, I told you so, or anything like that. He's really good about it. He's very patient with me, which is much appreciated because I'm skeptical all the time. He tells me stuff all the time, and I try to reason with it. Well, that's not possible. I just don't believe that. And then it happens, and then I come back, oh, you're right.
So let me ask you, on Ouija boards, what's the most horrific experience you've had with it? Something that was really frightening to you?
I've never had a bad thing happen.
Never?
Not once. And I mean, that's a long time.
That is a long time.
I'm not going to reveal how old I am, folks, but I'll just
17,
say it's over.
18 years
I'm
old.
over 40, okay? I'll put it that way. And I've been doing this since I was 8 or 9 years old. And
Wow.
I've never had a negative experience, not
So
once.
since you were 8 or 9 years old, you were playing with Ouija board.
By myself.
By yourself.
By myself.
And which is one of the things they tell you never to do.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And why is it that they tell you never to play with the Ouija board on your own?
Well, 9 times out of 10, when somebody uses it on their own, they're going to do it just like the movie Witchboard. I don't know if you've seen that or not. And she becomes obsessed with it. And she's sitting down with it constantly and talking. And she's believing everything that's coming through and believing that it's a little boy that's talking to her and things like that. Well, the problem is most people are not comfortable with using their own intuition. They're not very good at discernment. And they're gullible. And sadly, that's when you open up yourself up to the possibility of possession and things like that. So if you don't know what you're doing, you probably shouldn't mess with it.
And it's real easy to get super involved with it, correct?
It is, sure. Once you get them talking, it's, you get some interesting information coming through. And so it's easy to see why people would be easily charmed and want to keep, using it and getting answers. But the thing that I want to point out is with the dead, if they're stuck here on our plane, they're a ghost, they're really not going to have much information about our future. And so you find people asking, who am I going to marry and this and that, and they could tell you anything, and you have to use some skepticism in there and know
and
that,
common sense.
Right, and know that a ghost is not going to know what your future is because they're stuck here still.
Now let me ask you, if you're doing something on a Ouija board, okay, and because you're a psychic medium and you're picking up on things and you're sensing things and you have this ability and you've got this tool that you're using here in front of you. And I'm an investigator who's more on the scientific side of things. What is the best way, you would think, for me to be able to validate what you're picking up on? What would be your best advice to somebody who is trying to validate scientifically what a psychic medium is bringing to them or what they're using on a board?
Well, actually, the last time I used one at a location, I did a psychic walkthrough first. I had a group with me. We documented everything, recorded everything I said, and it wasn't until later that I actually used my dowsing rods. There was a male presence that was trying to come forward, but he didn't want to come too close to the crowd. So I kind of pulled myself away and said, okay guys, I'm going to go a little bit ahead over here because he's more comfortable there. And he was already giving me information, so I was already vocalizing it so that they had it for the recording. And later that evening, they're like, okay, let's use the board now. So we went to a different part of the building where we had been warned was full of activity. And we started having information coming through. And it was all kind of coinciding with the information I was already given earlier. And then things started happening around us, walking. Someone got a picture of a lady in a white dress in the window. I mean, it was perfectly clear too. It wasn't one of those where you were like, oh, he took a picture before and he took one after, but that one in the middle was...
And you could clearly see this.
Yes, yes. And we had already been told about this a couple of different times now. So, and the way I do it when I do use it with another person is I have them ask the question in their head without me knowing what the question is, because otherwise how do they know I'm not moving it, right? So that's how we do that.
So basically, if you want somebody to validate any type of psychic experiences, and especially with the use of a Ouija board, you're going to want to ask this question in your mind and say, I'm going to ask a question in my mind. You're going to have your hands on the planchette and you're going to sit there and you're going to give an answer based on a question that she has no idea. So that's actually, pretty cool that you would do it that way, because by doing so, you're not going to have any information as far as what I'm asking.
Exactly.
So I guess that would work pretty well. Now, I mean, with the Ouija board and the different types of tarot cards and all that, that's all basically fallen into the same realm of, tapping into the spirit world, correct?
Right.
In your opinion, what's the best way to communicate? Which one of those ways? Or does it just depend on the individual?
I think it depends on the individual. It also depends on the spirits or ghosts or whoever it is you're trying to talk to. It depends on how they want to come through. I've had instances where they don't want anything to do with the electronics because they're so old school that they're just like, what is this? I don't want to mess with that. You know, when you talk to some elderly people, sometimes they're afraid to touch a computer or something, you know. So you find that maybe they're more comfortable coming through a Ouija board, or maybe they're more comfortable with vocalizing.
Well, because I know a lot of people, they use spirit boxes,
Yep.
things of that nature. And like a lot of times, even us, when we're trying to contact or trying to collect EVPs, you know, we'll tell the spirit to come talk to this device. You know, we can't pick you up now, but we'll hear you later. And a lot of times you have to remember you're speaking with entities that were, when they were alive, were maybe 1800s, early 1900s,
Right.
maybe 1700s. It just depends on what case you're working. And they're looking at this stuff, I'm sure, with no earthly clue what the heck it is or what to make of it. But the written language goes back a very, very long ways. And when you have the written language going on, and most people know how to write or spell, a lot of times you think that maybe by using a combination of maybe electronic devices and something such as a Ouija during an investigation would come in handy, giving spirits an opportunity to communicate in different ways. However, because you place your hands on the planchette, it's, I think it's harder to prove this thing moving on its own when you're looking such as at a camera and I'm telling you this is moving on its own,
Right.
or am I moving it? Okay, so you're going to have skeptics out there.
Right.
And you're going to have skeptics that are going to say, well, Eddie was moving it on his own. You know, in fact, I wasn't, but no matter what I say on camera, it's impossible for me to show that I'm not touching it, unless, of course, it's moving on its own on the board. Then you've got the skeptics that are going to say that it was rigged. But so a skeptic's a skeptic, you know, either way.
Sure.
But, and I welcome skeptics because it helps to keep everybody honest.
Yep.
You know, so I like the fact that there's skeptics out there. I like the fact that, you know, we're questioned as far as the validity of different things, because there's so much fake stuff out there that it's almost impossible to determine anymore what's real and what's not. However, like our show, you know, we base everything as much as we can on scientific data that we're able to collect. And Renee, our mad scientist, he likes to grab this data and put it all together in order to try and prove or disprove a haunting. But this is a tool that I think we can use to help determine when we have spikes or other things occurring with electrical equipment at the same time this is
In
taking
tandem.
place.
Yeah. I agree.
If that makes sense to you guys. I mean, I know it sounds really complicated and technical, but when you try and put these things into perspective and try and integrate the use of a Ouija board, psychic medium, along with modern day technology and collect your data, it can be a bit tricky. But I feel, along with the rest of the team, that by combining all the uses from all this equipment together, we're able to gather enough data to prove or disprove a haunting.
Agreed.
So what would be your best advice to somebody who wants to get into using a Ouija board?
My best advice is to wipe out everything you've ever known about Ouija, anything you've ever heard. Know that it's completely benign. There's nothing scary about it. It's, you know, a piece of cardboard or a piece of wood, whatever it's made out of. And something else you may want to consider, and I always tell this to paranormal investigators, even if they're putting themselves out there with equipment, without equipment, protection is very, very important. Obviously, each person has their own belief system. Some people are religious, some not. Depends on, you know, what your spiritual mindset is. Personally, I always call Archangel Michael. I burn incense. And afterwards, I tend to, if I've taken it to a haunted location, I like to use sage to get rid of any negative energy that might still be contained in the board or holding on to it, because the last thing you want is something to attach itself to the board, which is possible.
And I found that out firsthand.
Right. It can be a portal, but so can you. You can be a portal.
Correct.
So that's the other thing to always keep in mind, is that it is a tool to use to speak to the other side. And just as much as it is, you are as well. You are a conduit. Otherwise, this thing is not going to move, right? Your fingers are on it, but you're still being used as a conduit to move it. They're seeing through your eyes where the letters are. Because if you were to try to use it with your eyes closed, you probably, it's going to be a bunch of gibberish. So in some way, they are using you to do it.
To communicate.
Right. So if you're allowing them, and which if you are using something like this, you are giving them full permission to do that. That's something else to keep in mind. If you're uncomfortable with them using you, then don't do it.
What is it that you can tell me about the Ouija board that probably most people don't know?
Most people don't know. Not only can ghosts come through, and I try to point out the difference, because there's a lot of people that don't know the difference between ghosts and spirits. And the difference is, spirits have already gone through the light. They've already transitioned and gone when they're supposed to go. Ghosts, on the other hand, are still trapped here on this plane for whatever reason, whether it be choice or not choice. But with the board, you can contact either one. You can contact passed over loved ones that have gone through the light, if they want to talk to you. That's an if, because they are still people. They're human spirits, and we always have a choice. I've actually been able to communicate with my main archangel more than once through my board as well. So, I mean, you've got the possibilities of talking to angels. Who knows what you can get to come through? I mean, I've often wondered, whether or not cryptids can come through. It's a possibility.
Yeah, you just never know.
Yeah, you just never know. Anything can come through. So, and that's another reason to be very, very cautious, because you just don't know what you're going to get. You could be very focused and want to talk to someone in specific, but if they don't want to speak to you for whatever reason, or they're busy, or then something else could come through. And, sadly, that has, for some people, included demons. I mean, so if you can think, okay, demons can come through, well, so can angels. Right? Because that's the difference between dark and light, right? So either one can come through. So there's a variety of voices you can get.
The main question that I think all of you want to know, can you control what comes through the board?
No.
You cannot.
You cannot.
Okay, so if you're inexperienced, anything could be coming through this board, and you have no control over what it may be. So, I mean, you have to use caution, and like she said, use the protection of whatever your religion may consist of in order to keep yourself safe when using this or any other device to communicate with the other side. You can't take this stuff lightly, folks, because there is always a danger of some sort. And some of you out there who I've talked to before know this to be true and know this as fact. When these things come through, they can totally disturb and disrupt your entire life. Correct?
Yes, they certainly can.
So, I mean, this is something that you have to go into knowing this. But look it up, read up on it, read up how to protect yourself before you even attempt to try a Ouija board, tarot, or anything else. If you're already doing it, then you already probably do this, so you already know the dangers. But if you don't know, and I'm speaking mainly to the ones that have never used it, or been involved with the paranormal like this firsthand, read up on it and protect yourselves. So we talked earlier, you have a book here, I see.
I do, yes.
This book is what?
This is my personal paranormal
Show it to this camera right
autobiography.
here.
It's my personal paranormal autobiography. This takes you basically through my childhood when I started getting involved and seeing my first shadow person, which was conveniently timed because that was around the time I started making Ouija boards. So it could be a coincidence, maybe not. I don't know.
It's called Dark Night Haunting, The Life of a Paranormal Investigator. And where can people pick up this book?
Actually, it's available on Amazon, and you can get it in Kindle form or in print.
Okay, so they can read it on a tablet or they can get the hard copy.
Yep.
Awesome. Is there any place they can contact you if they want maybe a signed copy of it? Or?
Yeah, actually, every which way you can possibly contact me is going to be connected to my website, which is jendevillier.com, and that's spelled DEVILLIER.com.
And she's also on my Facebook. So if you want to look at my friends list, I've got her there now, and you can contact her through Facebook as well if you need any more information, or would just like to contact her and or maybe get opinions on things, and or pick her up for her services. I mean, she's available for that. And you also make Ouija boards.
I do. I haven't done it in a long time. I've actually been quite busy with a lot of writing projects. I'm also an astrologer. I read tarot cards. I have a lot of clients. I'm working on my second book. I do lectures.
Second book.
I also do lectures. So I've always got my plate going.
Sneak peek, second book. What's it about?
It is kind of a continuance from the first because it's been a few years since I put this one out, and there's a lot that's been happening since then, obviously. I mean, it's a daily occurrence for me, pretty much. As I was telling Renee earlier, I've acquired a ghost attachment, but due to sensitive nature, I'm not going to reveal who it is, but there's been a lot going on with that and trying to help this person to heal and try and get him to go through the light, as difficult as it feels. But I also seem to keep getting pulled back into the paranormal. I actually tried to pull out of the paranormal and said, okay, angels, just send me a sign here. What is it you want me to do? And then next thing you know, I'm being pulled back into the paranormal. So the second book is going to be a collage of things happening, experiences, including my personal experiences with fairies.
Now, that is something that we have not covered, are fairies. However, I find them very intriguing, and I think they're really cool. But I will tell you one thing. I know you said you haven't made a Ouija board in quite a long time. I would like for you to make Paranormal Analytical our own special Ouija board that we can use when we're out investigating different locations. Because I know that this is just a different way for us to communicate and verify our findings, which we can use in different locations, which I think would be really neat. And I'm sure you all would like to see the results of that as well. So could you do that for us?
I would love to.
See, so we're going to have a special Ouija board made by her that we're going to use on our show when we find locations where it's going to be fitting, and it's going to be pretty cool. So with that in mind, is there any, I guess the same areas or same locations they can contact you if they would like you to make one for them?
Yes, that would be my website, jendevillier.com.
Awesome. So, I can't thank you enough for being here with us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
All this information I find fascinating, and I have to admit, I had a lot of misconceptions about the Ouija board as well, and especially since my little run-in with that plushette sitting there smacking the box while I was under my bed. That, let me tell you, at my age back then, 16 or so, that was really unnerving. And you want to talk about something getting a 16-year-old's attention? That did it. So, and you've been doing it for so much longer. I mean,
Been doing it
geez.
forever, yeah.
So, I mean, that is an incredible story. And a book, I'm definitely going to want a copy of your book signed, by the way, because I definitely want one of those. But like I said, we can't thank you enough for being here with us on this webisode and giving everybody this insight into a very much dreaded topic of the Ouija board, which a lot of people don't understand. And remember, it's just a tool. It's not an evil entity. It's not the devil. It's nothing like that. It's a simple tool that is used for investigations, and it's no more dangerous than anything else we're using to contact the other side. Thank you so much, Jen, for being with us.
Thank you.
All right. With that in mind, this is webisode number 7. Thank you all so much for joining us. We appreciate it. I'd like for you to like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't forget, if you have any other information, questions, or anything you'd like to send to us, send it to paranormalanalytical@gmail.com. And we'll be seeing you again real soon.